Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
Hey everybody, how you doing today? Hope you're having a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you're watching or listening. Welcome to a brand new Ike Live 2.0. And I got a good one for you today, guys. Joining us in just a minute, my good friend Frank Scalish joining us. It's been a while. This is going to be, I always say these Ike Lives are real, but this is a real one because it's been a minute since Frank and I could catch up like this. So very excited to talk to Frank. Catch up with Frank, see what he's been up to, and get his opinion on the madness of fishing in 2024. As always, want to thank Abu Garcia for being the presenting sponsor of the show. Go check out some of the new Abu stuff they just launched at ICAST. Some amazing stuff. And I don't want to just pump the Ike Series 3.0, and that's pretty awesome. It's going to be available in September. You can pre-order at Tackle Warehouse right now. That's pretty awesome. But they've got other stuff really cool. BFS, if you're into this finesse bait casting, they got a brand new reel to fit that. Of course, the Revo Rocket spinning, 3-to-1 on a spinning reel. Unheard of, guys. Absolutely unheard of. Go to abugarcia.com. Check that stuff out. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation, trying to get new kids fishing. If you want to support that organization, if you want to figure out how to get new kids fishing in your area, go to the ikefoundation.org. .org. A lot of good info over there. All right. This isn't a long intro period here. I want to get Frank right on. So joining us now on Ike Live 2.0, Frank Scalish. Frank!
Dude, it has been a millennium since I saw you last.
It's been a long time. Dude, that's so, for those of you that are watching and listening, if you don't know how these podcasts work, so I'm controlling all this myself in 2.0. And so I got Frank on before we went live here, and we were playing catch up around. I'm like, let's save that for the. Exactly. I'm like, don't say another word. I want to save it. But dude, it's so good to see you.
Absolutely, man.
It feels like, honestly, I think this is a sign of getting old, because I remember, my mom and my grandmom always talking about, the fact that time seems to go quicker. It seems like things happened just yesterday. Like, it honestly feels like we were touring together, fishing, filming city limits, like seeing each other at fishing show. It seems like yesterday, and it's been a minute.
It's been a while, dude. Like the funniest thing is I remember something about you from the beginning of time, and you probably I don't know if you'll remember or not, but it was the funniest thing ever. So listen. So here's the deal. Okay, so way back, I think we started probably fishing right around the same time.
Yep.
If maybe you were there a year first, or I was there a year for, I don't know how it worked, but it was legitimately like in that window. So what happened was, and because everybody that watches these shows, they all fish, so they know the drill.
Oh, yeah.
and seasonal patterns are very relevant, and et cetera, et cetera. So right when I started fishing Bassmasters, right before I started fishing, like the season came out, they busted an article where I was on Lake Erie with a jig and spoon smashing smallmouths. Okay. So I'll never forget this. I think we were on Santee Cooper, and it was the springtime. And you have to realize something. You and I didn't really know each other at all then. It just started.
Yeah.
And so I launched my boat. You launched your boat. I launched my boat. I was getting in mine. You were standing on the front deck of yours, trolling, motoring out. And you just looked at me and you went, like a jig and spoon thing. I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, I can't even believe that he just did that. Here we are, we're fishing this deep cypress trees.
Oh my God. The funny thing is, to put that in context for everybody watching, if you're listening, this was legitimately the mid-90s. So there's a lot of people listening to this podcast, Frank, that weren't alive.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
That is scary. But I remember that one like it was yesterday, because it was the first tournament. I've had one since, but it was the first tournament where I went the entire tournament and zeroed. I never caught one in that tournament.
Dude,
I never caught one. And I was on, I haven't told a story in a long time, but I was on, it was such a shallow bite and tough, shallow bite.
Yeah.
And I found jigging spoonfish and like 20 to 30 foot of water on this point that had a roadbed, that had a ditch leading into it. Everything was perfect. And it was cold in practice. And I legitimately think I had a 30-pound bag the one day of practice. And
Oh my God.
I was so mind fucked by the practice that even though the last day of practice and the first, it was warming, even though that was happening, I was so mind fucked by the big ones I caught out there. I was jigging a spoon the rest of the time. Never caught one.
Dude, how many catfish did you catch?
A lot of giant catfish, a big striper, giant cat, like everything else but bass.
Oh yeah, I could just imagine you're like boom, boom, and then it's going down now, and it's a big whiskers.
Oh yeah, all my partners were of course from the South, and they were all looking at me like, "Why are you jigging a spoon of 30 foot of water on Santee Cooper?" Like,
oh yeah,
what the hell's going on? You're clueless, and I was actually clueless.
Not really. I mean, they moved, dude.
They moved.
They moved, dude. We were on. Remember shit, I don't even know. The Toledo Bend tournament, the day 2 was canceled because of the tornado.
Yeah.
So day 1, I went out there and I was drop shotting 28 feet deep, where all the transitional river channels went into the creek arms, but it was main lake, but it was all the conjunctions of the creeks going up to the main river arms. They canceled day 2. Day 3, the lake was horrendous. And I'm like, I told my non-boater, I said, we will literally never be able to fish out where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have a rod out on the deck. And he goes, well, what are we going to do? I go, I don't know. And so I pull out my paper map, I unfold this whole big map, and I'm sitting there waiting for blast off. And I'm just looking at the map like, I don't even have a rod out. So I go, okay, I think we're going to go here. And I just circled the creek, and he goes, did you practice in there? I go, no, I never been there in my life. He goes, why are we going there? I said, because I can get to it relatively quickly. And we can't go all the way down the lake by the dam where I was at. So we're going. So I'll never forget this, dude. So you got to run all the lanes on that lake. You know how that lake is. So I'm running the lanes. By the time I backtrack and double back, I get up this creek. I'm the only boat in it. And I start at the creek mouth, and I just put the boat up on pad, and I'm like sitting on the back of my seat so I could see everything. And I'm just cruising down this creek. And this dude is going ape shit. He is like, we got to fish, and I didn't sign up for this. And I go, dude, I don't even know what's back here yet. You know what I mean? I got to look. And so I literally, Mike, I run all the way to the back of this creek. I spin the boat around. I start running back out. I go, okay, I know what we're going to do. And I beach the boat. And I start pulling rods out. I'm cutting shit, retying different lures on. And this guy is going
spun out.
Dude, he's out. He's out for the day. God. He's out. So I go, remember that island we passed when we ran in here? He goes, yeah. I go, well, when my boat wave hit the bank, I saw all these bait fish scatter. I said, we're going to just go run a spinnerbait around that island and that flat real quick. Well, I caught a limit on it. All right.
That's awesome.
So then I go halfway down the creek. I saw little knobs of standing timber sticking out of the water on a channel bank. I said, we got to go there. I throw my swim bait out there. I catch a freaking 8-pounder. Okay. Yeah. I swear to God. I go, we got to go to the back of the creek. And I pull out another flipping stick with a lizard on it. We go all the way to the back of the creek, and there's sunken brush piles everywhere. You could just see the tips of the brush. I called fish out of the brush piles. This dude, by the end of the day, was like, doing all that crap.
I was going to say, I was imagining him, as you were telling the story, I was imagining how spun out he was. And I've had a few of those over the years.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think that same guy would react today with forward-facing sonar? He doesn't know how good he had it.
Oh,
he doesn't know.
100%, dude. This forward-facing sonar game is as polarizing as politics.
Oh man.
Like okay, so when we came up, the biggest thing that happened for us really was side imaging.
Side
Um,
imaging. Yes.
and I remember
Yeah.
it's going to ruin everything. Everybody's going to find everything and all this crap. And then I'll raise my hand. I was the same guy. I said, it's
Yeah.
going to ruin, everyone's going to find everything, because like when I'm looking for rock piles, I'm idling around for hours. I got a paper map, a compass, and a protractor. I mean, every bass boat I owned, dude, had a compass on it, a good
That's
one, like the big
that's so
bubble
awesome.
compasses.
Yes.
And so I said, oh, everyone's going to be able to catch everything now. Well, they still don't know how to use the stuff, and
Right.
it didn't hurt me one bit. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. So going back to uh, scoping. So the crazy enough thing is, I got my first unit last year, and it was my son's old Gen 1,
Wow. Late to the game.
very late.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, so I have the Gen 1, it's good. I could see what I need to see, but it's not like the units of today, clearly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, maybe it was 2 years ago. And so anyway, so I said, okay, I'm not bass fishing with this. I am only going to crappie fish with it until I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And so for one solid year, all I did off that unit was crappie fish,
Yeah.
and murdered them like ludicrously. So I was like, I got to get a good unit, and I got to get into the game. So I got the best units I could get. And I found, like, I watched 2.0 you did a long, long time ago when you first did it. It might have been, it was like, I think you did Gussie after the classic, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. We had Gussie on. Yep.
And you brought up um, forward facing sonar, you brought up fishing instinctively and shit like that. So
Yeah.
so I'm a crazy instinctual fisherman, and I love structure fishing. That is like, I would do that over any type of fishing any day.
Yeah.
So with forward facing sonar, before I started using it with the way I normally fish, when I tried to do what everyone else does, go out and look around in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, I
Yeah.
was getting killed. Like I would catch one or two bass. I couldn't never put it together. When I started fishing instinctually and using it to enhance my structure fishing,
Yeah.
my fish catching went up exponentially,
Wow.
because
That's yeah. That's I love what you're saying, because I think I've had a struggle bus last few years, and I think I'm trying to change the way that I fish based
yeah,
on the technology rather than use it as a supplementary
correct.
tool, you
Yeah.
know? So let me ask you this. Are you using it then to just in the scenario where, you know, you're using your instincts, you're doing it your old way, and then you're using it to look for fish, or just look for structure or cover, or how are you then transferring it
Okay.
to?
That's a great question. So here's the deal. So like, I'll break it down: structure and grass.
Yeah.
So grass lakes are fabulous, fabulous fisheries. Okay. Nobody cranks grass edges, because with 2D sonar, the way I used to crank the grass edges is I'd slide up onto the grass till I started seeing it on my 2D, back off, and then you have to make a cast. And if you snag the grass, then you got to make another cast out a little bit
Yeah,
farther.
you're finding it by feel.
Correct.
Yeah.
With the scope game, dude, I just go, whoop, there's that grass edge. Two casts, I'm making
Yeah.
a perfect cast. And
Right.
then, and like the other day I was out, and here's a perfect example. The other day I was out, and I'm running a DD22 Norman. I'm running it over 14, 15 feet of grass. And I see one come up after the crankbait and go back down. He didn't take it. He came up, went down. I said, I threw back out there. I reeled it in even faster. I'm like, maybe I got to be more aggressive. He comes up, he goes back down. I picked up my Ned rig, I threw it out there, 5-pounder. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
where the enhancement's coming in.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because
I like that. I like that you said that, because usually I honestly, Frank, I think in the last 2 years of podcasting, I think every show we brought up forward face, and that's how polarizing it is. But
oh yeah,
I've heard so many anglers just be very one-sided with it, and this is probably the only maybe second time I've heard it explained like this, and I like this explanation of it. Especially for the older guys. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you were born later than 2000, you're going to hear 3 words that Frank mentioned already. When the podcast is over, get your dictionary and Google, just not dictionary. They don't even know what a dictionary is. Get your phone and Google these terms: paper map, lizard, DD22.
How about
Please?
How about
if
compass and protractor?
Oh yeah, compass. Dude, it's so great when I get the older guys on the podcast, because all these terms make me happy, because they bring me back to my early days. But honestly, a good portion of today's, like, I can't tell you. So I still keep marker buoys in my Bass Cat, and I have them in the little, like, in the Bass Cat, the middle seat is a flip open cooler, and it's got a little space in the back. And I keep a 2 orange marker buoys. I can't tell you, Frank, how many, let's call them 30 unders, got in my boat in the last couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years. And what's that?
Yeah. It's a
I gotta explain the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a catfish thing called a yo bob. Remember that when Jimmy Houston had those buoys with the catfish ropes on them?
Oh yeah. That's how I should have explained it. I should have lied and told him it was for noodling or something.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I still have marker buoys in my boat today too. I may never throw it out, but I can't not have them with me. Because, because like I was on Oneida one time and I lost all power in the boat, and I had no electronics, no trolling motor, no nothing. But when I got on my one rock pile, I threw a marker buoy out of habit. So what I wound up doing was I wound up drifting with a drift sock around my buoy. You know what I mean? And and it saved the day.
Wow. That's a cool story.
So,
there you have it. Another term, drift sock. Another one. I had that in my boat in the last 2 events. Big water. I still carry it in big water tournaments. And it's another one that people don't even know what it is anymore. I love all this stuff. We could do, Frank, listen to this. We could do an entire podcast, you and I, just based on these terms. Like, how cool would that be? Like, literally, like DD, a whole show on DD22, a whole show on freaking marker buoys.
Oh yeah, we could. I mean, it could be because here, look, I mean, it's people today coming up don't even know. I mean, they don't know. Like,
they don't.
I can't even fathom the fact, like, every bass boat that I ever got, I had extra bilge pumps put in it.
Yes.
And the compass.
Yes.
And every single bass boat I owned, I had those things. And it's just like, you can't get lost if you have a compass. You can't get lost. If you have no power, no electricity, but your motor runs, you can always find your way back with a compass.
Always.
But you know what? I haven't had a compass on my boat for 10 years.
That's crazy.
Now. Yeah, it's nuts.
It's crazy. And I think that's common, like, young guys coming up, as technology advances everywhere.
Right.
They forget about these things. But I do want to ask something. And it's nice when I have the older guys on, because I could ask them these questions.
You can say old guy.
Older. I'm not going to say old guy. Older guys. That, not knowing these terms and not knowing these older methods is one thing, but not knowing the history of the sport is another. Now, I don't want to pin it all on pro bass fishing, because I've seen it I've watched, documentaries and things on pro football and baseball, and there's the same thing there. A lot of young, talented athletes that come up that have no clue to the history of the sport. Does that bother you a little bit? Does it bother you that a lot of these young guys coming up don't know Denny Browler or Tommy Biffle, or they don't know the legacy of Ray Scott, or those kind of things? Does that bother you?
Yeah, it does. It bothers me a lot because I was always in love with the game.
Yeah.
And so I took it seriously because I'm like this. I tell my son this all the time. I wasn't the best angler on the planet, so I had to work 10 times harder at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I studied everything about the tournament game, the fish, the animal, the environment, everything that thing needed to live. And so I would go the extra mile continuously. And so when somebody doesn't know who some of these players are, I'm like, how do you not know that? You know what I mean? This dude changed the game. This guy made flipping. You know what I'm saying? How do you not know that? And then all you hear about, all the whining and complaining, all you hear about is, all you got to do now is drop your troller and motor in the water and you catch fish. That's such bullshit, because you still have to know seasonal patterns, migration routes, etc.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I have issues with poo-pooing technology. I'm not the most technologically savvy guy. Okay, like if I had to do what you're doing, pulling stuff up on the computer and everything, this show would never get off the ground. Okay, I mean, to be honest with you, like here, I can dial phone numbers and take pictures. All right.
Yeah.
And so, but as a professional angler, if you want to say diehard tournament angler, okay, if you don't master your electronics, you don't have a chance. Today. You don't.
In today's current world, you don't. You do not.
You don't.
Yeah.
And so rather than cry about it, learn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And here, look, you don't have to rely on it. Like, it doesn't have to be your be all end all. When I first started using forward facing sonar, I thought I couldn't fish anymore. I'm like, what the? Why can't I catch fish? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I said, time out. I got to go back to what I know.
Yeah.
And then I got to see how this unit's going to help me improve.
Right.
And that's when it all started clicking.
Right.
For me.
Right. I'm glad. I sometimes I do these podcasts and I feel like certain things happen for a reason. And this one, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I'm hearing this, because I need a refresher in my career right now. I need a refresher in my professional career. So I'm glad I'm hearing this. It gives me some inspiration and hope going into 2025.
Dude,
by the way,
what you need is time.
Time. I need time. I know. Yeah. I need time. And a 52-year-old guy doesn't have time. He's running out of time.
That's exactly right.
But I did want to say real quick, love what you're doing on Bass Zone, by the way. Some really cool stuff you're doing over there. How's that experience been for you?
Absolutely fabulous.
That's awesome.
When I first started fishing the opens, I qualified for the elites that first season. When I made the elites, sponsorships started to become not easy to get, but easier to get. Only because of that validity factor, But I remember when I got my first industry sponsor, because realistically, almost all my sponsors were outside the industry. Yeah. When I got my first industry sponsor, it was Pradco. They said, "Hey, what do you want out of a sponsorship besides money?" Okay. And I said, "I want to be involved in this industry. When I'm done fishing, I want to be heavily involved in the industry." Right. And they looked at me like, "What?" You know what I mean? Because I guarantee you, back in 2001, they never heard that before.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so over the course of time, when Mark Jeffries, before BTL, when Mark Jeffries was doing the Bass Zone stuff, we did some stuff together. We got along famously. Mark's a good friend of mine today. When what happened was, I'm going to tell you how this transitioned into day 4. So what happened was a couple of big tournaments. I think it was Bass and maybe Major League. Were going up to Lake Erie. So Mark said, "Come on, we'll talk smallmouth." And so I'm like, "Yeah, cool, no biggie." So we got on there and we started going through it. And I had we okay, you have so much experience. So when you talk, you're talking from your experience. Same thing with me when I'm talking about smallmouth or whatever. I'm talking through personal experience. So what we do is we may assume something and leave out a detail. So I was on this podcast and I said, the hardest part about the Great Lakes is trying to find glacier deposits. Never thinking twice about it. Glacier moved this way, you got to go this way to find them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Never thinking twice about it. And so Mark's like, glacier deposits. And so I went into this little litany on a glacier deposit, probably 10 or 15 minutes on it. The comment section blew up. The downloads went mental. Mark calls me like 3 days later. He goes, "Holy crap, you got to have your own day on BTL."
That's
And I'm like,
awesome.
yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. You know what I mean?
So awesome.
Yeah,
That's so awesome.
It was fun.
It's funny that one concept and term changed things. That's actually what happened with this Ike Live podcast. I don't know if you know this, Frank, 10 years old last fall. So we're going on our 11th season. And same thing, like the first or second Ike Live podcast, we started saying shit and fuck, and the podcast went crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of the same.
It's kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
and we're drinking beer and talking about, shit. And then here we are 11 years later.
but the thing is, though, you offer content, real content.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I found to be the critical component is you could bloviate, you could bullshit, you could do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you got to have some real, things to offer.
Yeah.
And that, because now you're making it entertaining to learn something. It doesn't feel like you're going to school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the key component. So on BTL, what I do is I have days where I deep dive, where I go into it. And then I have days where we just literally just fly off the handle and talk about whatever comes up. Don't even worry about it. The deep dives, I was going to try to do deep dives on every episode, but it gets taxing because there's a lot like I do. Well, I put everything away, but I do like illustrations and all kinds of stuff for the deep dives. So it's not like I'm just going to get on and make up a deep dive in 2 minutes because
you're fleshing it out thoroughly, like the whole thing. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of how it started. But it's been to me here. Look, I'll be honest with you, man. I love the tournament game, and it's in my blood. Like I'm a competitor. But the way my life is now, I almost can't go back to competing because it's like I've got these two worlds that are now parallel and in unison.
Right.
So realistically, dude, I live every day like I'm retired.
Right.
Okay. I design baits, I design colors, I do the podcast, and I fish pretty much whenever I want to.
Yeah.
And so now I find myself like the thing that I miss about the tournament game, Mike, is new bodies of water and new challenges.
Yeah. Well, don't fish the Bassmasters Elite because it's the same 9 places every year.
Every year, right? Exactly. Exactly. And so what I've been doing is I've been going to places like lakes close to home that I've never fished before for whatever the reasons. Like I got a tin boat when I quit fishing. I got a tin boat, built it up, decked it out, and I went to every electric motor lake within 2 hours of my house
Yeah.
and figured them all out, and literally just was catching fish like nobody's going to believe I'm catching these fish in Ohio kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I bought another bass boat, and consequently I sold my tin rig. I sold my tin rig last year, and it was really hard to get rid of it, dude. It was really hard to get rid of it because I'm like,
I
man,
I know that. I see Ohio. If you're watching geographically, they might look different, but Ohio and New Jersey very similar. And I know that tin boat. Like I won't get rid of mine.
yeah, you're smart.
Oh yeah, I won't get rid of
Yeah.
mine. In fact, my original tin boat, and I've told the story before, but was Coleman Crawdad. That was a big thing here in New Jersey and the Northeast, and it's basically a polyurethane John boat.
Yeah.
You could deck them out real easy. So I gave that to my son, I think when he was seven or eight. I gave that to him. And then I went out and bought him I bought a low 1248 because I needed another tin boat, you know. So
Yes,
I
perfect.
love that game. I love that game.
Yeah, it's really unique, and see, our fisheries are, this big.
Right.
Like it's hilarious when I talk to somebody from Alabama or Texas or whatever, they're like, "Why don't you ever fish on the weekend?" I'm like, you can't you can't. You can't. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
if you're on a power lake, you're getting run over by wave boats, jet skiers,
Yeah.
pontoon boats. Because in their head, if they don't hit you, then they're not too close. Like they just they just feel like I didn't hit them, I'm good. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's
Well,
just crazy.
what you described, I mean, your current life, what you described sounds like to me what I dream about when I'm officially retired from tournament competition. Like that to me is I want to do what you're doing when I'm officially retired from tour level competition.
Oh,
You
dude,
know?
you're the busiest dude on earth. Like I can't. Like I'll be honest with you, I can't even keep up with everything you're doing. Seriously.
Some of it's self-inflicted. I don't sit still well, and Becky doesn't. I married someone that doesn't sit still well, and now my kids don't sit still well. So I'm caught in this vicious cycle, you know.
Well,
but
the beauty part about the kid game is like I'm empty nesting right now. All my kids are out. My oldest, Frankie, went to the military, came out, bought a bass boat, fishes his ass off. That's all he does. Okay. He's like me, basically.
ate up.
Yeah. My middle son, Noah, went to the Marine Corps, got out. He's a fireman in Raleigh. Married, gave us our first grandchild, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And he lives 25 minutes from Lake Jordan.
Wow.
And so I told my wife, I said, well, I think, you should be near your grandkid. I probably moved
a whole scheme to move
to Lake Jordan. And you know what I'm saying? And then my youngest kid, he went to college, he played baseball. He's ate up with fishing as bad as me and Frankie, beyond belief. Played baseball in college. Now he's getting his master's degree and he's assistant pitching coach in Benedictine, Arizona. And so it's really bizarre because I always had a fishing partner, and between you and me, I don't fish with other people a lot, basically because you lose it the minute you show somebody, it's gone forever, and our lakes are so small here that if you find that little nugget, you got to kind of keep that nugget. And so my kids all moved away, and I feel like I'm back on tour fishing by myself every day. I mean,
same. It's the same.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, I'm fishing alone again.
That's funny. That's funny. I want to call you to play on something, and it's Ike Live, so you have to be honest. But I said this. We did a little live one a couple weeks ago. I was stuck in upstate New York. We were doing some tackle warehouse stuff, And the Zona's retirement, it cost a lot of retirements in the last couple of weeks, but
oh yeah,
Zona's retirement came up, and we were throwing around ideas of who would be an amazing replacement. And I actually had like 3 names pop into my mind as we were doing the podcast. Pete Glusick was one, because I think he's great too.
Yeah, he's good.
But I think I mentioned it live. I said, man, Frank would, because I've known you for a long time. I've seen your seminars. I'm looking at your stuff on Bass Zone, all this stuff. And I'm like, God, like Frank would be freaking great as a Zona replacement. Have you, you got to answer me honestly. Let me pose it this way. If Bassmaster approached you to come in for, let's call it a test, would you ever consider doing commentating at that level?
I'll be honest with you. I heard your show when you mentioned that. And I almost fell out of my chair because I'm like, hey, the first SOB that goes behind Zona is got big giant boots to fill.
Big boots to fill.
And yes. And so whoever goes in that spot can't try to be a Zona. They got to be their own personality.
Right.
Then, of course, my wheels get turning after you said that, because I really hadn't thought about it. And my wheels get turning, and I go, God, could I do that? Would I do that? You know what I mean? How much travel's involved? How much?
Yeah. I think you could. And I think if the opportunity was there, I think you should. But I do want to, like, the Zona thing is a good way you explain that, because they are big shoes to fill. But I think you've got Frank a lot of the characteristics that he had, which is, dude, Zona provided an insight that, and I don't say this to bash any of the commentators now, whatever circuit, but he had a great insight into the world because he did it himself, right?
Right.
He was a hardcore fish head. He was a tournament angler. He loved the game. He loved everything we talked about already, right? He had that, and he was able to articulate that, right? I think that was a big reason for his success.
Yeah.
He had a personality, which I think you have that, you
might be able to find it.
You have a personality. So he had a lot of the things that I think you have. I think you'd be a great replace. You guys even have like the similar accents. I don't know. It's like in Ohio, Northern Michigan / New York.
Well,
accent.
we are neighbors. I mean, we are bordering states.
That's what I'm saying. It's a very distinct.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're doing a lot of talking too. You'd be good at it too, but I'm just telling you right now. It's like you said. I didn't answer your question. I totally politicked it away.
You did. I love it.
I did. But let's just say I'm always open to things.
Okay.
I'm always open to things. I don't know.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a reality or not, but all we're doing here is BSing about it. So, I mean, you'd be a fool if an opportunity knocks and you don't look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, I think you'd be great for it. And my 3 choices, just for the record, were you and Pete and, of course, Kevin Van Dam. I think all 3 of you in that role would be phenomenal. I really do.
Well, if Kevin did it, which he won't, but if Kevin did it, maybe
I asked him that, and he said he wouldn't. I asked him straight up, and he said he wouldn't. So,
no, if he did it, at least some of the new guys would know who he is.
Right. Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
It's mind-boggling to me.
Oh yeah.
It's absolutely mind-boggling. We were fortunate. We were fortunate to get into the game when we did. Because the game was building. I hate the word growing, because the sport is what it is. How big is it really going to get? How big was it? How small was it? That's all up for interpretation.
Right.
I will tell you this. My first Bassmaster Classic I made was in 2002, I think. The first season on the Elites, whatever it was, 2002. And we were on Lay Lake. And so I brought my wife with me, and I clearly have never been to a classic. I worked one once. I worked the one in Chicago, that Woo Daves one. But I had never been to a classic before. My wife has never been to a bass tournament before. Okay. So we Mike, I swear to God, this is like I didn't even miss a beat. We pull in front of the hotel. I got the wrap boat, the wrap truck. We pull in front of the hotel. All the news people are out there. The cameras are out there, and you open those doors to the Sheraton, and it's this big giant vestibule with welcome Bassmasters.
Oh yeah.
You know the drill.
Oh yeah.
It's live and on fire. Okay, and she was like, she was like amazed, and I looked at her like, dude, I didn't even flinch. I go, they're all like this. That's
That's so awesome.
Yeah, she thought that all the tournaments were like that.
Oh man.
I was laughing so hard. But to make the point, okay, to make the point. So we literally got the itinerary, and it had every stinking minute for 4 days. You had somewhere to be,
planned and scheduled.
right? You
Yeah.
remember that. It had somewhere to be, somewhere to go. Da, 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 da. Well, the next classic that I made was, I think, 2009 or 10, and 1000% different.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh
was
yeah.
way subdued, way laid back. We didn't
Totally.
have to be in a million places.
Yeah.
We had our own time to do whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought the classic didn't have what it had. It didn't have that
Right.
mystique that it once had.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
Yeah, I do. I do. I haven't made a classic in a few years, but I watched that exactly what you're talking about, the deterioration of, I don't want to say the importance of the classic, but just the aura around the event,
right.
From like you said, everything to the banquet, like
Yeah.
dude showing up in jeans to the banquet, and, to, less media presence, to less national cup, to everything just seemed like it kind of just compressed.
Yeah, it's not, it's not. And here, I'll be honest with you. It was amazing the first time. The second time was equally amazing as how you feel when you make it.
Yeah.
I liked the subdued nature of it because I didn't want to be told where to go every day.
Right.
I wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And so that fit really well for my personality. And I'll be honest with you, I probably was a little lackadaisical about it because I partied like a rock star for that whole week. You know what I mean? I'm like, holy shit, I got to get up in 2 hours. Oh my God. You know what I mean? But I figured it like this, you don't get there every year. I'm going to have the best time I can possibly have, and let cards fall where they fall. And that's how I played it. Whether it was smart or dumb, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had a few of those classics over the years myself. I did want to get your opinion. I did want to get back to the Zona retirement, and hopefully I'm be able to track him down here. I would love to talk to him about it, but let me get your take on that. We know how important he was. I think in that era, he was instrumental in helping grow the sport and attract people. And I mean, he was contagious. People wanted to watch him, not just his TV show, but his commentating. But what do you really think the reasons are? Like, why now? Why did Zona retire now? Can you pinpoint? You think why? Is there a reason or several?
Honestly, it would be pure conjecture because I have no earthly idea.
Okay.
I really don't. If I said anything, it would only be a guess and my own guess.
Yeah.
I just think that, he's done it for so long that he made his acquaintances in the game. And when all your peers are leaving around you,
right.
Okay, you have to sit down at some point and go, do I go out on top? Do I go out with my buddies? Do I start living my life? You
Right.
have big decisions to make. Like, that wasn't
Right.
easy for him. I promise
No,
you
I'm
that
sure.
decision
I'm
wasn't.
sure it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't.
And so I
Yeah.
think it was a culmination of a lot. I think it was,
Yeah.
the fact that a lot of the guys that he grew up with, so to speak,
Yeah.
were leaving. I think, um, to say the game is changing, the game's not changing. There was drama when we started doing this in the beginning. There was
Right.
drama. We
Right.
just didn't have clickbait back then
Right.
because we didn't have social media. So
Yeah. There wasn't the sheer instant coverage of something.
right.
You had to
So
wait.
yeah,
You had to
you had
wait
a
for the
month.
coverage.
Yeah, you had to
Yeah.
wait a month for it. But
Yeah.
like if I had a meltdown, and I have in a bunch of tournaments when guys pull in front of you and start
Oh,
fishing,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
cuss them out and tell them, wait till we get in the parking lot. I'm gonna beat you to 1 inch of your life and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'll tell you a story, dude. I was on them so thick at Santee Cooper one time, it would have made your head spin. And actually, Zell won it, and he won it in the exact same 200-yard stretch
Panopolis Pool.
that I was fishing. Well, it was near. It was very near there. It was very close to there,
Yeah.
and so I was in there, and I couldn't get to the goods because Zell was on the goods. And
Yeah.
I told him, I said, dude, there is enough fish for both of us to weigh in 90, 100 pounds.
Yeah.
I said, you're letting me in there and I won't get
Yeah.
in your way. And
Yeah.
he's like, you ain't coming in here. Well, the place that we were in was real tricky to get into. So it took a long time to get your boat in there. It took planning.
Right.
Well, this dude comes around the corner from me and I'm like, spectator. That's what I said. Spectator boat. It's a
Yeah.
spectator.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, a lure goes flying past my boat. I don't turn around or nothing. I'm just fishing. And I tell my non-boater, I go, hey, dude, be careful about going way in front of me. Because if I get a fish and you're out there and we get tangled and I lose the fish, I'm going to get upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes, Frank, it's not me. And I turn around and this dude is motor to motor with me. He's got his trolling motor like this far from my outboard.
What?
Yeah. And I take a deep breath and I tell my non-boater, I said, this is going to get ugly right now. And he goes, I'm with you, bro. Just like that. He goes, and he was a rugby player, dude. He weighed like 300 pounds. And I don't mean 300 pounds of belly meat. I mean 300 pounds of freaking rock. And so he goes, I got your back.
That's the right guy to have in your boat.
100%, dude. So listen to this. I turn around, I tell the dude, I said, I don't know who the hell you are. I said, but where were you yesterday?
Yeah.
He goes, well, I went up the river. And I go, and how did you do yesterday? He goes, well, I weighed in one fish. I said, then you need to get the F out of here right now.
Yeah.
I said, because you have no chance for anything and you're going to screw me out of a lot of money right now.
Oh, yeah.
So listen to this. He goes, well, I'm not leaving. I said, well, we're going to bet on that. I said, look at the side of my boat. My name's 3 feet long on it. You know what I mean? And it's got a .com on it. So I said, look at the side of my boat. Remember who my name is. Remember, because when you see me in the parking lot, I'm not coming to shake your hand. That's what I told him, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, F you, I'm not leaving. And he fires a cast out in front of the boat. I go, okay. I said, here's how this one's going down. This is during an event, dude. I go, okay, so here's how this is going to go down. I said, and I'm telling you up front, so you can't be surprised later. I said, I'm going to take the nose of my boat and I'm going to put it between your outboard and your transom. And I'm going to push you all the way back to the effing weigh-in. And neither one of us is going to make a cast the rest of the day. This dude thought I was lying.
Yeah.
I told my non-boater, I'm like, put your life jacket on. I put my life jacket on. I started up my boat. I went around him. I put the nose of my boat right between his motor and his transom.
Oh, my God.
And I just started plowing him. This dude goes, you're out of your mind. You're out of your fucking mind. I'm leaving. I go, good. And all the time I'm doing that, this little aluminum boat with 3 locals in it, chucking shiners, pulled up to the grass bed I was working towards and started waylaying them on freaking dude on golden shiners. I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe it. I was watching, they were all 3 of them were bowed over, dude. They were chucking big giant shiners on them. And I'm like, okay, this ain't happening for me today.
Wow, that's such a good story.
That's
such a good story.
It's true, dude. It is 100% true.
Yeah. That I just love the as you were telling that, I could smell the old smells. I could like it brings nostalgia of the tournament, back before it was a cancel culture and people resorted to social media to bash people. And it was just, that's the way it should be. But
it was live.
Yeah. But we're also both, we don't fit the mold of the good old, but that I love those stories because it reminds me of the good old days,
Oh yeah. That guy, his eyes were as big as his boat. When I put that nose of my boat on the back deck of his boat, this guy was losing his mind, man. My non-boater was like, after the guy left, my non-boater was high-fiving me so hard, I think I lost 2 inches in height. I mean, he was like, dude, wham. He towered over me.
Yeah.
I'm like, easy, bro. I got to make some casts yet.
Did you guys go and play rugby later that weekend together?
Hell no, dude. Hell no.
It's funny because you bring that story up, brings nostalgia up, and not that things were different, but things were maybe handled different. It was just a different world, back then. But getting back to the Zona thing, and again, this is me just guessing because we haven't talked to him yet. Would love to have him on the show, talk about it. But I think some of that probably played into this decision, right? Like,
probably
there's probably a lot of factors, a lot of just normal factors, but I think it is a different world today, Frank, right? Yeah, like, I just throw 4 at you, like, forward facing sonar, guys out there working as a team together, the cheating, the waypointing, there's, I could go on and on, but there's just I don't want to oversay it, but there's this weird feeling in the sport right now that is, that if you have this time that you might want to, it's like, man, this is the time because this shit's getting ridiculous. I think some of that played into it. I really do.
Yeah, and I won't disagree with that. I won't, because there was always drama back when we were doing it, but it wasn't immediately exposed. Right. And like you said, by the time things got exposed, everybody worked it out.
Right.
There was a cheating element even back then, but the rules are set up so you can't really prove it. You can't really enforce it. Right. I think the worst part about it was the off limits. Because I remember in the beginning, it was like 2 weeks or a week off limits.
Right.
And because I never been to any of the lakes before, I always took the week before to go pre-fish. And then during the off limits, I went to a different lake to fish. Right. We might go there. It's close. I'll go there and learn that lake.
Right.
And so I always said, if I've got 5 to 6 days on a lake, I don't care what information people get, because if I can't find enough fish to be competitive in a week, I shouldn't be fishing.
Right.
And so I didn't care. But I remember the year that they said there's going to be a 1 month off limits. And on the elites, that means you have 2.5 days of practice.
Right.
Pretty
2.5.
much.
Or in the current elites where they cancel days and don't give you an extra practice day, 1.5, which 2, but ends up being 1.5.
Right. And so I'm like, well, this is bullshit, because now I can't be competitive. If it's a lake, I don't know. I can't be competitive. And so I think that one rule change opened the gates for everything that's happening now.
Right.
And so like people say, well, you know, they always change the rules all the time and blah blah blah. In any business during a growth spurt, you see where things could be improved, so you try to improve them.
Right.
In the fishing business, they're trying to figure out, and they still are close, but they don't really have it figured out for exposure purposes, which is why they lack big non-endemic sponsorships, because they can't give them the marketing that they need to warrant that price point. Okay.
Right.
And so they keep trying to figure it out. It's a tweak here and a tuck there, but in the process, sometimes they make a rule change that they don't know the ramifications of that until down the road.
Right. Like a little domino process starts to happen. Yeah.
Correct. And so I think what's happening now is now they're seeing the results of a bad rule decision. Right. Meaning, let's go to 1 month off limit period.
Right.
Because now it's like, now you're got a big gray area, and there's people out there that are going to fill that gray area with something, and there's nothing black and white, so it's interpretation. You follow me?
Yeah. And a lot of this was, I mean, a lot of what you're saying, it's funny because I sort of, you know, nobody was allowed to record the meeting or whatever, but at Lake Champlain, the next to last event, we had a meeting. And Frank, it was, I'm not kidding, I'm not going to exaggerate. On the email that was sent, it was a 2-hour meeting. And it was a meeting to let the bass anglers talk with the management. And it was good. I thought it was all, I was excited by that gesture. But it turned into a 5.5-hour meeting. And it was, but it was a lot of what you're talking about, how one thing led to another, and there's all this gray now, and, you know, and just this general feeling from everyone there of how could the sport in 2024 be in a worse spot than it was in 2004, right? Like, and what other walk of life and what other occupation or profession would you work for less money 20 years later than when you start?
Oh, yeah.
And that's fishing right now in general, right? Classics 100%. Are less, tournaments are less, entries are up. I mean, so there was a lot of that sentiment at the meeting, you know, exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a big issue. I told my son, cause he's got high aspirations, and the little shit's good. He's got high aspirations. And I said, are you prepared to work more hours than you ever worked in your life for less than minimum wage?
For a lot less money, right?
And he's like, what do you mean? I go, that's the reality of the game, bro. Yeah. I said, here's how, Mike, back in the day, you and I talked sponsorship stuff a lot.
Yeah.
I said, if you don't have all of your travel, all your entry fees, and all of your bills at home paid, and money put away for taxes, you're not even coming close to breaking even.
Oh yeah.
And that has to be your sponsor package.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't make it, because in today's day and age, it is impossible for the same 3 people to keep winning every event. It's impossible.
Yeah, very few. That's definitely the minor. That's 1%.
Right.
1 or 2% of the population of touring pros or aspiring touring pros can do that.
Correct.
I agree.
I agree. And so you go down that road, and he's like, why do you shoot down at everything? I go, I'm not shooting it down. I'm telling you the reality.
A reality check. It's a reality check.
Right. Yeah. So if you put your ducks in a row, you can do it. I did it for 11 or 12 years, nonstop, traveling 230 some days a year between sponsor crap and the travel and the tournaments. You can absolutely do it. Yeah. But it is brutal. It's brutal.
And that's what gets me. It almost hurts, you know, that we're in a place that is that tough this many years removed from, you know, from when we started. You know, I mean, you always have the dream that one day, you know, be set up like other sports where a young guy coming in like your son or my son,
right,
could get into this without that as a barrier. How can, if you work so hard to get to the elites, how could that be in place? You should be able to make money. Like it should be like other sports. You should be able to make money. You should be able to pay your bills.
Right, but
it's crazy.
But it's not.
Right.
As long as you have to pay to play, okay,
Right.
it's never going to get any bigger than it is.
Right.
I hate to be the devil's advocate, but I've had, man, I don't know what I could say here or not.
It's like live. You can say anything you want.
Okay. I will. I'm talking to you and I'm thinking how I'm going to phrase this so I don't get blackballed tomorrow.
You won't get blackballed.
Back in the day, we had the PAA in the beginning stages of the PAA.
Yeah.
The idea was very sound. It was going to be a union for the protection of the bass anglers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It turned into something not at all like that was supposed to be.
Right.
We had a meeting, a private meeting, and I got up there and I said, here's how this has to work. Your jersey is going to be like a beef chart in the store. We're putting minimum values for every logo has a minimum.
Absolutely.
If Iconelli or KVD can get 5 times that amount for this little logo, then God love them.
Right.
But nobody could take less than what we deem that value for.
Yes.
If you fill every space that's available on your boat and truck and jersey, you're making a living fishing.
Yep.
To which half the anglers went apeshit on me and said, we need every dime we could get. And I said, that's because you're always taking less than you need.
Yeah.
See, Davey Height told me something when I made my first classic. Davey told me, he said, Frank, he goes, you're going to get sponsors calling you. And if you take less than you need, you're never going to get what you need to do this.
Right.
And God is my judge. I got 2 calls, which I won't say the companies. They offered me sponsors. They wanted title. They wanted the title on the wrap and the jersey. And they each offered me $15,000.
Wow.
I turned them both down. I had nothing, Mike. I had nothing. I turned them both down.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I got my OSI deal. Had I not turned them down, I would not have been in a position to accept the OSI deal.
Right.
And OSI was fabulous, dude. It was a fabulous non-endemic sponsorship that equated to a lot of money, especially over the course of 10 years.
Right.
And so...
Yeah, and listen, what you're saying is not any different than what other professional organizations have. And I'm not even talking about athletes. I'm talking about carpenters and plumbers and fucking regular main, this isn't like, you're not talking alien language here. This is done.
You got to run it like a business.
Yeah. There's standards, right? Every profession has standards. And that should have always been one of our standards. And let me tell you this, and I won't rat nobody out either, but I would say some of the biggest names in our sport, I've had them on this podcast, have worked for less than what they should have worked for. And it hurts even more when a person like that does it.
Yeah.
When a rookie does it, man, it hurts, because you're breaking down what should
you're
work.
You're devaluing.
But when the guy that's fished 20 years, that's one of the biggest names in the sport, does it, dude, you're screwed.
Yeah,
you're screwed.
Like I remember the first year they made wrap boats mandatory for the elites. So out there, I was probably one of 11 or 12 guys that actually had a real wrap package. Okay. Right. Bass said they're going to make it mandatory. And I said, you can't do that. They're like, well, why? We want to make that look. We want that NASCAR look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, no, because what's going to happen is you're going to have guys that'll sell that wrap for the cost of the vinyl because they need the wrap to fish.
And they do. And they do to this day.
To the day. And then what happens? Our values go down and down and down because they're like, why should we pay you X amount when this guy will do it for $4,900?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That's 100% exactly what happened. And so, so there was a lot of shit that I fought for in bass because I'm a firm believer in making this sport legitimately real, to grow, to keep advancing. And when I say grow, I hate the term grow the sport. What I mean is make it a freaking professional sport where if you qualify, you're getting a paycheck because they want your presence on the field. Okay.
Right.
If you want to relate it to bat and ball sports, those guys get paid because of their athleticism and what they can do on the field. And an angler should be paid accordingly as well.
Right.
So the likes of a guy like you, like KVD, like a bunch of the other guys that really built their name and really made a mark in the tournament industry, your value should be the value of, I'm not saying you got to get $50 million like a receiver does, but your value should be such that if you don't get one logo on your boat, you're making it. You've made it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where the issue is with the sport. But to go back to something that I said in the beginning, until they figure out how to televise it, stream it, whatever, so it's conducive for major non-endemic players to get in the game, it's never going to happen because they need the money from the anglers to put these events on. Right. And so that's where you're at.
Yeah.
24 years later from when you and I jumped in the game.
Yeah. Let me straight up ask you this. And it's not that we don't hope the opposite is true because, your son loves it. My son loves it. Vegas, he's a fish head. He's aspiring to do this. So not that we don't hope, but let me straight up ask you, Frank, have we passed the heyday of professional fishing? Will it ever get better than what we saw? We were reminiscing in the beginning of this podcast. Will it ever get better than what it was, call it mid 90s to late 2000s, the heyday? Will we ever see another heyday? Will it ever get better? Or is that it? Is it in the past?
My honest opinion is they're experiencing all the issues they are now, and it's not just Bassmasters, it's all the other ones too.
Right.
They're experiencing this stuff now because it's coming to a boil. And so I believe that radical changes have to occur in order to get it to what we're talking about.
Right.
The sad part you're still fishing. The sad part if I was still fishing, the sad part for you and me would be we won't be participating in it then. Right. But I do believe it's going to take a turn because the organizations make money and nobody's closing a business down that makes money. Not in today's world.
Right.
So in order for them to make more money, they got to fix it. And so is it entirely broken? No. But it's broken.
Right.
And so I believe it's going to change again, Mike. I really believe that.
Yeah.
We may not have 250 players in the game.
Right.
You might only have 60 players in the game.
Right.
And then the real equation is going to be you're going to have farm teams and you're going to have guys that have to fish their way up to the 60.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yeah. It sounds a lot like, the vision of MLF. And we did an entire show on this, I think a year ago. We had Boyd on and what you're talking about. And again, I never thought it was a bad idea, but when the general public caught wind of this, dude, they had a fit. They wanted to hang Boyd up by the fucking rafters.
Oh yeah,
You know?
100%. But you see, you, to make a legitimate change, you got to have the balls to make it.
Right.
Okay, and you can't make excuses for it when you do make it.
Right.
You just go, here it is.
Yeah.
If you don't
Right.
like it, find, there's other organizations you could fish.
Right.
Have at it. You're
Yeah.
going to piss a lot of people off. In the beginning, it's going to be mayhem. When all the dust settles, if you make the right decisions, you got something golden, and it's going to survive for the next 10 or 15, 20 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
here, Mike, the crazy thing, we were nostalgic going on before. The invitationals never built the anglers. It was always the Bassmaster Classic. You had
Right.
all those anglers fighting for that classic. And then when they made the classic, they became famous for it.
Yeah.
Today, everyone wants to be famous for fishing the invitationals or the Toyotas or the this or the that. And so the more you dilute everything along the way,
Right.
then because when I was a kid, we had our favorite anglers and we only knew about them because of the classic.
Right. Yeah. The
And
classic held this, and
it
the
was
classic's still a
it's
high event, but it has been watered down,
yeah.
for the reason they've watered it down themselves.
Oh
But
yeah.
then you've had, MLF with their championship and this organization with their championship and the invitation, this and that. It's been watered down.
It
For
has
sure.
been for absolutely. So I mean it's I've always been a Bassmaster in the blood guy my entire life since I was a tiny kid. When I Bo Dowden 1,000 Islands flipping a black and blue jig in the eelgrass, I was 14 years old. I said, "Dad, that's what I'm going to do for a living."
Mind blowing.
Yeah, exactly. I go, "That's what I
Yeah.
want to do for a living." And he goes, "Oh God, no, you're not. You're going to get a job sweeping floors and you're going to work your way up into the company. And someday you're going to be the president of that company." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
but that was my mentality of it all. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I
Yeah.
was ate up with this sport my entire life. And to me, in my blood, because everybody's blood's different, in my blood, it was always Bassmasters, and it was never going to be anything but Bassmasters for me. And
Yeah.
so I can't say I didn't fish any um I can't say I didn't fish any MLF stuff. It wasn't MLF back then when I was fishing it. It was Redman.
Yeah.
I did, and I potlucked some of the Toyota stuff when I was close to the lake and couldn't go home, and I potlucked them.
Yeah.
And I got some friends of mine that do very well in MLF and don't have nothing to do with bass, and I got friends in bass that don't have nothing to do, and so I said, ESPN flew me to here when ESPN bought Bassmasters.
Yeah.
I'm
So
saying
time frame. We're early 2000s here.
yes. So
Yeah.
I'm saying this, and I don't believe ever have said this in public. ESPN contacted me on it was Friday or Saturday. They said, "We want you to come to Florida." Plane tickets were on my computer. That night, Monday morning, I flew to Florida. We sat down. We had this massive monster meeting. It lasted literally almost 9 hours.
Wow.
We went through everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything. And I said, okay, after we went through all this other stuff, which we don't have time to go through, I said, here's what we need to do. And they're listening. They flew me down. I didn't go down there and knock on the door and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you."
Yeah.
I said, here's what we need to do. We need to make a World Series of bass fishing right now. We need to take our top 25 guys and pin them against MLF's top 25 guys.
Yeah. FLW at the time.
FLW at the time. And we need to have the World Series of bass fishing. And they're like, Anyway, I said, here's what happens. You have people on that side that live, eat, breathe, and die that side. They don't even care about you people. Okay, just like you have anglers and fans and stuff on the bass side that don't care about the other side.
Yeah.
We're going to merge them all together. We're going to create a fan base. We're going to create rivalries. You're going to get all these non-endemics to sponsor that event.
Yeah.
That event is going to catapult this into a next level in the industry. And they said, you're fucking crazy. We're not doing it. I was like, you don't understand. It's not going to hurt nothing. It's only going to help. It's only going to help. It legitimizes the entire tournament trails.
Right. And I think I would love to see that. I think it's still in the current world, that would still be an awesome event.
Oh, 100%, dude. It would be the biggest event in fishing history.
Yeah.
It would.
Well, there you have it. A lot of inside industry people watch this and listen to this podcast. Guys, there you have it. Somebody with a lot of deep pockets and power. Johnny Morris, I know you listen to this podcast. Don't you lie. I know you're listening right now, Johnny Morris. Chase Anderson from Bassmaster, Boyd Duckin from MLF. I know you guys listen to this podcast. Don't deny it. There you go. Frank just provided you for free a really good concept.
For an MC gig.
yeah, for an MC gig. Yeah, just a trade-off. We want to take Zona's spot. I do want to switch up here. I want to get a little light. I want to go lighter. We were I like it because we started light. We got heavy in the middle. That's good.
We gotta fluff our way out.
Let's get light here toward the end again, Frank. And we were talking about nostalgia. We're talking about nostalgia. So I have in my notes 2 things I want nostalgically want to talk about. And the one is, I got to tell you that, wow, my son just walked in. He got a haircut. Looks good, dude. Looks awesome. Wow. Nice and cut. I see you got yours cut. It looks good too. I did want to talk about, I wanted to sort of look you in the eye and say that I got to do an amazing TV show for about 5 seasons called City Limits Fishing.
I love
and
it.
One of the funnest shows I've ever filmed. Not just from the standpoint of the fishing, but just fun, was the show we shot together. So thank you, Frank. All those years ago, I had a lot of fun with you in that show.
I appreciated that more than you could ever know.
It was so good.
I have to be honest with you. I was nervous a little. I didn't know exactly 100% what to expect. And so I literally ran out and pre-fished.
That's awesome.
I said, I got to be on something because
little dialed.
Because this could go really wrong. And so anyhow, it was, dude, the weirdest part about the show wasn't doing the actual you and me in the boat yucking it up.
Yeah.
It was the stuff that we had to do to past tense to make it present tense.
That's always strange. Oh
right,
yeah,
for the interview stuff. So I'm gonna blow something up for a minute because this is hilarious. So the first stop that we made, we literally could have finished the show there.
I remember. There were a lot of fish.
We literally, and so we caught one, and I don't know I think I caught the first keeper. Yeah. And we did the live well thing, and the wind was blowing us right on top of what we were fishing. And I wanted to stay way off of it so we could catch the rest of them. We'd have been done with the show and like that. And so your producer goes, we got to redo that. I want you to get the fish and do this. And I'm like, we're going to drift on top of it. The shelf
it happened already, and you're ruining what I'm trying to do here, buddy.
100%. And so we did that. And then of course we didn't catch another one there because the shelf only was 4 feet deep and then dropped off. And we were literally right on top of where all those fish were at. So the other thing that was so funny, dude, and it was, for those guys who never saw this, if you look it up, you have to go see it because this was 100% real. So the rock bass and stuff were in heavy too,
Yeah.
and the largemouth were in the same places.
Yeah.
And the problem was every time you get bumped, if you set the hook and didn't get the fish, your trailer would come off, or your tentacles on the trailer would come off. And or your line would be so ratted with zebra mussels, you had to
Zebras, the
retie.
killer zebras.
Right. So this is no bullshit. I would flip in there and I'd be trailerless. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to get another trailer. And we were using chigger craws, I think, in the show.
Chigger craws. I think you're right.
I
Finesse
didn't
jigs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
finesse
didn't
jigs.
have right. Yeah, finesse jigs and chigger craws, and I didn't have any chigger craws with me. And so you go, hey, I think I got a bag, and I think we had one bag of the right color between the two of us.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got to get another one, and I'm like this trying to get it on as fast as I can, and Mike's like, there he is, I got him. And so I'm like,
Frank, you were the locator. I was the catcher.
oh, dude. If that didn't happen 7 times that day, it didn't happen
a lot.
Once.
It did happen a lot.
Dude, I was like, man, every time I had to retie or change a trailer. And so then it got to the point where, like, if I missed one, I'd be like, yeah, no, that wasn't a fish. And then and Mike would be like, there he is. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be horrible. I said, it's going to come out. All it's going to just do is Mike catching fish and me putting trailers on and retying jigs. But it was so much fun.
It was a fun, and it is that was one of the ones that's the epitome of a true downtown show. You know, some of them they were within the city limits, but didn't have the city feel. Dude, it was so cool to be there downtown, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like just the skyline. I loved it. I just thought that was one of my favorites. Five seasons, 30 shows. That was one of my favorites.
That show is very, very near and dear to me. I have to be honest with you. It was so much fun. I couldn't even stand it. And it was a very sad that it was over.
I think I still have those disco pants. I think I saved them. Even
though the zebra belt.
And the zebra belt. I think like Becky does like I hoard shit, especially fish shit. But Becky's the opposite. She's like, get rid of it. Get rid of everything. Well, Beck, that's my classic trophy. Get rid of that shit. It's taking up office space. That's my Angler of the Year trophy. What do you? Nah, get rid of that. We don't need it. She's not that bad, but she wants to get rid of everything. And I think she was trying to get rid of that, and I'm like, nah, keep those pants. I don't know. I can't remember the belt, but I'm like, keep those pants. I want everyone to remember.
It was a black and white zebra belt.
Zebra belt. God. Oh yeah, those were the days. So that was awesome. And by the way, I heard a rumor, little birdie chirping, that there might be a City Limits Fishing reboot coming up, Frank. So we might have to talk off air a little bit about
we got to talk
some
off
things.
Air about
little birdie chirping. The other one that I wanted to bring up, and this story had come up on this show in the past without you being here. So when you said yes to coming on doing the show, I'm like, God, finally I get to hear the truth from the guy it happened to, right? Like, you know, some of these stories go down in the history of bass fishing, and you always wonder, like, was that really true? You know what I mean? Like, you know how things get twisted. So there was a story that was told on Ike Live about an event on the St. Johns River, and I can't put a number on how many years ago this was. But
I know.
But it was an event where, I'm paraphrasing the story as it was told, but you were making a long run to the bottom of Lake George or into the, I can't remember.
Way beyond Lake George.
Astor, you were going somewhere, Astor, way down there. And something happened at the bottom of Lake George. Do you want to give us the actual version of the story?
Oh, yeah.
You have no sponsor obligations here to protect anybody, right? Any sponsors you're trying to protect?
They don't even make the boats anymore.
Okay, so we're free to talk about it. We're free to talk about this. Okay.
So there was a lot. So, the guy that I was with, we're super good friends to this day.
Okay.
That was in that boat with me.
Yeah.
So I've come out of the river. I hit Lake George. Lake George is rocking. It's got good waves on it. It's rocking.
Yeah. It gets big. George gets big.
I'm pretty much balls to the wall because the boat that I had handled the waves effortlessly, smooth as silk. We weren't getting our brains kicked in, and I was motoring. And I get halfway down the lake, and I'm staying in the channel lane because they got. So for people that never been there, it used to be like a dummy bombing site, and so they got telephone poles with big sheets of plywood on them, and they would drop these artificial, not exploding bombs, just dummies that would, to hit their target. And
Target
so,
practice.
yeah, so you literally had to stay in the boat lanes because everything else was littered with old telephone poles.
Right.
The lake was really rough, and I was motoring, and all I knew is that the faster I can get through the speed zones, the more time I'm going to have to fish.
Right.
Because I was traveling a little over 2 hours to get to where I wanted to fish.
Wow.
And I was on them like I legitimately, like, when you say I'm going to win this event, I'm going to win this event.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm trucking. And I told my dude with me, his name is Warren. I said, Warren, just hold on to whatever you could hold on to. We're not going to die, but we got to go. And so he's got, he's got the oh shit handle on. He's holding on to the handrail. And dude, I'm airing it. And all of a sudden I'm running and I feel the boat go like that. I don't think nothing of it, except I noticed, just got a little like that. And I'm in the middle of the boat channel. I don't think nothing of it. I'm all of a sudden I'm losing a mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour. I'm raising the jack plate. I'm like, the first thought I had is, oh fuck, my jack plate's dropping on me. So I'm cranking the jack plate up, trimming farther, and I'm losing another mile an hour and another mile an hour. And we hit the lock wall, the no wake at the end where you got to go through that wall.
Yeah.
I shut the boat off a pad. And you know how when you shut your boat down, it goes like that?
Yeah.
I shut that boat down, dude. It goes whoa, like it had brakes on. We both go flying forward. All my compartment lids go boom, boom, and water just goes
out of the compartments.
Out of the compartments.
Like a volcano, like a geyser.
Swear to God, dude. I'm not bullshitting you. I mean, whoa, we are full of water. I'm like, oh my God. So we're literally, I'm pushing it, idling, getting the nose up, idling it. I go, Warren, spider crawl up to the top, stick your head down. Tell me what you see. Because I'm thinking I got a little hole and I'll get duct tape out and duct tape it to get through the day, right?
Yeah.
He crawls up there, he leans over, he looks down, he goes, I see everything. And I go, I go like, dude, what do you mean everything? He goes, Frank, I could see inside the bottom of your boat. I'm like, holy shit.
What did Warren's face look like when he said, was he like white as a ghost?
Oh yeah. So I can't even explain it. So the first thing I'm doing is looking for a spot where I can actually get the boat to the bank because all the sandbars and shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I see a spot, I start going to it, but I got to plow to keep the nose up, and I'm plowing, and all of a sudden, dunk, I'm stuck on a sandbar 20 yards off the bank, and I can't move. I'm completely buried. So I call Bass and I go, hey man, I need a loaner boat, and I'm up the canal past Lake George. And they go, we don't have any loaner boats. I'm like, holy shit. So I called the tow place. They go, yeah, we'll be there in a half an hour. I'm like, oh my God. So I still don't know really damage.
Right.
All I know, Mike, is that I took everything out of every compartment and stacked them on the nose of my boat because it's dry. So So I've got, it looks like a cord of wood up there. It's all tackle boxes, just stacked in a big triangle. And all my rods are out laying, I look like a crappie fisherman going down the lake. You know what I mean? So the tow guy comes and he's got this little pump with him, little 3-inch hole.
A 100 GPH pump.
Right. So he opens up the back compartment lid, which of course it's just underwater. He puts that pump in there, starts the motor, and it's pissing this little stream of water out. And I'm like this. I go, you realize you're just pumping the lake into the lake. Like, we're not getting nothing out of the boat. You're just pumping the lake into the lake. Do you got a bigger one of those things? And he goes, yeah, we got to go get it. He goes, and they take everything out. He goes, we'll be back in an hour. And I'm like, what? So they leave. They come back an hour later and they got this machine, dude. It's giant. It takes like 2 of them to move it. The hose is a monster size hose. We shove that thing in the back compartment. They fire that thing up and it's blowing a line of water 30 feet in the air, this big around.
It's a dredge operation. They put a dredge operation in the back.
Dude, sorry. All of a sudden, my boat starts to float a little bit. I'm like, oh, we're in. They go, you got to follow us to the tow yard, but we can't leave the pump in your boat. I go, dude, the minute you take the pump out, my boat's not floating anymore. I mean, it'll float, but it's not going anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
You got to leave the pump in the boat. So I had to convince them to leave the pump in the boat. And so their tow yard was like 1.5 miles away from where we were. So picture this, dude. I got the boat it's so full of water. I literally have the pedal to the floor and the boat is almost vertical. Just
it's
going
like a wheelie. It's doing a wheelie.
Yeah, 100%. And I've got this Mugambo 3-foot wide stream of water shooting 25 feet in the air behind the boat. So everyone's going by. They're all looking. Anyway, the long and short of it is, he goes, you got to get it on the boat lift in the building. And I'm like, how the fuck am I going to do that? I got to go through these channel buoys. They're like serpentine because there's, coral and rock deposits everywhere. And so I get in there and I went in hot, dude, because I had to get that boat on that lift. Right. So I went in hot, dude. Wham! We hit the lift. They lifted the boat up, and I'm thinking, I got a hole. I could duct tape. Mental. Okay.
Yeah, you were like, Warren's exagerating. It can't be.
100%. I'm like, I don't know this guy from Adam. I just met him the other day. You know what I mean? I mean, what do I know? Dude, they lift that boat out of the water, and half the fucking boat's gone.
Oh my god!
Like
delaminate it, like delamination, like gone. Like,
no, like somebody cut out an 18-inch section from the front cleat to past the driver's seat, like as wide as the telephone pole, completely gone. Like no fiberglass, like nothing, completely gone.
Oh my god.
It was unbelievable.
Crazy.
By the time I got the boat, I had to get a ride from there to the launch ramp, which by car was almost 2 hours and 3/4 away.
Yeah, that's forever away from Palatka. Forever away. Yeah.
And so by the time I got there to get the boat and then the trailer and then get the trailer to come back, I go, do we have a lift or something where we could and put it on the trailer? He goes, no, there's a boat ramp down the canal. You got to use the boat ramp down the canal. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get down the canal? Yeah. You got to give me your motor, your pump. Yeah. Oh no, we can't give you the pump. So I told Warren, I said, take the truck to the boat ramp. And then I'll take the boat from here to the ramp. And he goes, "No, I'm not leaving you." So we had another guy, complete stranger, take my truck and trailer to the boat ramp.
Yeah, here's the keys. Go ahead.
Right, 100%. And I mean, at this point in time, you're putting the fate of God in your hands.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're going down this canal, and you know how some of the canals are very narrow, right? So we're
yeah.
going down the canal, and there's these crappie fishermen, and they're smack dab in the middle of the canal. And I am literally vertical in my boat, plowing it, and I'm leaning over to the side so I could see around the boat. And I'm telling them, "You move out of the way. You got to move out of the way." And they're like, "We're not moving. You're ruining our crappie fishing." And dude, I had to go around them. And boom, I'm banging the bottom of the boat with the motor and shit. I get to the trailer, and I put the boat on the trailer, and it goes on the trailer and goes like this. Don't. So where my bunks were on the bass boat trailer were right where the long split is, and the boat, it literally, the bunk
Caved
is
in.
bunk is in, yeah, where the hole is. I'm like, holy shit.
But they say, Frank, wait a minute. They say bad things come in threes. This is like 33 things all compiled.
Oh yeah, well, I potlucked a FLW event on Okeechobee. Right after that, I had to borrow a boat for Okeechobee. I borrowed a boat from a guy who retired that I knew lived down there. I borrowed his boat. None of his electronics worked. His bilge pump didn't work. The motor wouldn't start. I go out to practice, and I go to start the boat. It won't start. I call him up. I'm like, "Hey, George, how do you start your freaking boat?" "Take the
Oh,
cowling
man.
off. There's a wrench in the back compartment. Take the cowling off and hit starter with the wrench." I'm
Oh,
like,
man.
no, no, no.
I've had it. You've had enough at that point. You're like,
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
enough. I'm out. Forget it.
Meantime, I'm on him really good at Okeechobee, and his boat broke down.
Oh,
And
man.
I never got to fish either event.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you actually told the real story, because it's so much better than
Oh
the
yeah.
version that I heard. It's so much better. And
It's
imagining
unbelievable.
Warren in the boat with you going through all this,
Oh yeah.
it's
And
just as
he calls me, he's from Alabama. He calls me DuBoy. Okay. I don't know what that means in Alabamian. It could be dickhead. I don't know what it means, but he calls me DuBoy. And so he goes, "Man, DuBoy, you're awful calm about this." I go, "What the fuck am I gonna do, dude? I just spent, $9,000 for nothing.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? For nothing, for
Yeah.
zero."
Yeah.
But Legend
Wow.
was good. I called them up. I told them what happened. They said, "We'll have another boat for you in 2 weeks."
Wow.
Yeah, and they gave
That
me
is
another
good.
one.
That
But
is good.
yeah, the rumor was it delaminated while I was running down the lake, like
Yeah.
but that's not at all what happened.
That's the
That
version that I heard.
Yeah,
That's the version I heard. Yeah.
that's not at all what happened.
The real version's better. So I'm so happy I got to hear that
Oh
from
yes,
you,
it
you
was
know?
insane too. And him and Warren and I, we fished together a bunch of times for fun, and every now and then we'll get together and just go catch them. And
Dude, I say
oh,
this about this sport all the time, but it's like, if it can happen, it will. Like I've never had that particular thing happen, but I've had so many things like that happen
oh yeah,
in 30 years. It's unbelievable.
that's what
If it can happen, it will
it will.
happen.
It's gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, like some of my friends, they follow both tours like mad. Okay.
Yeah.
"Can you believe so and so threw up a zero?" I said, "You don't know what happened."
Right.
I said, "That dude never doesn't catch them." So I'm telling you right now, something happened.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
it's always like that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
always like that.
Yeah. Man.
It's so funny,
What
dude.
a what an awesome story. Frank, I told you it was probably one of the best city limit shows I ever had. I think this is one of the funnest podcasts I ever have. I say this in a good way. I've been doing these 2.0s, and most of these were 45 to I think our longest one was an hour and 5. We're at an hour and 40. And that's
Holy
good.
Smokes, man.
That's good because when that much time, I'm looking at the little thing on the top of the screen. When that goes by like that, it was good. It was good. I had so much fun catching up with you, man.
Oh,
it was awesome. It was awesome. We can't wait. We can't go this long anymore. I'm not going to steal. I'm not going to steal you from Bass Zone, but Bass Talk Live. But
there's something in my head that says something. We're going to do something.
Yeah, me too.
I have that feeling.
I've had that feeling. I always felt a bond with you over the years, and I don't know if it's just because we're both Northern dicks or if it's because we're both good guys. I couldn't tell. It's one or the other.
Personality. We got a personality thing that.
It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate coming on the show, dude. It's super, super fun. And again, if Bass calls, that phone rings, and you need some extra votes, you've got my vote.
I appreciate you, dude. If they call me, you're going to be probably the second person I call. I gotta tell my wife before you.
Yeah, that's important. As you should.
Well, you know the drill.
I know the drill. Frank, thanks for coming on, dude.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, Mike.
You got it. Keep up the good work, dude.
You too, my man.
Try
to free some time up, dude. You're too busy. You're the busiest man in fishing.
I know. Well, if this little birdie's chirping about City Limits Fishing coming back out, I might have a lot more time to do stuff like that. So that's
perfect.
Good.
Love it.
Yeah. We'll see you, Frank.
Adios, man. Thank
you. Later. We'll see you. Dude, that was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm not kidding. An hour and 40 minutes felt like a 10-minute conversation with Frank, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be when you're catching up with old friends. Definitely some great stuff there, including the real story of what happened to Frank's boat in that event all those years ago. Definitely, guys, check out Frank on BTL, his work over there, what he's doing. It's pretty amazing. Also, check out all his social stuff. You can find it. I don't know how to do all that stuff. Big shout out to Frank for coming on. So great to catch up with him. Let me remind you, please keep the comments coming. And we really do look at them. The comments on the lives, the comments post-show that you can leave on all those venues, whether it's iTunes or Vimeo or wherever you're watching it, IkeLive.com. Leave the comments because we want to know how you feel. We want to know the topics you want to hear from, the guests. We really do look at all those comments. And thank you for all the positive feedback about Ike Live 2.0, this new format. It's been great. Once again, Abu Garcia supporting this podcast. Go to their website, abugarcia.com. Check out all the great rods and reels they've got, including the Ike Series 3.0. We've got rods. We've got reels. We even have a travel rod all available starting in September. Go over to Tackle Warehouse and pre-order them if you want. Go do that. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation. If you want to help get kids fishing, head over to IkeFoundation.org. There's a lot of great information on how you can get kids fishing in your area. Head over there, IkeFoundation.org. Also, I think there's two events left this year. If you're up here in the Northeast, we have a Ike kayak event. I want to say the second Saturday of September. And we have one last kids tournament, the second or third Saturday of September. So if you're local and you want to go check out that stuff, please do it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you at the next one. Bye, guys.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes, but they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you. Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing. You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.